Hello, so this is Drugs in Perspective. Chapter 3, Drug-Specific Information. I gathered some videos to explain the topics because I thought that would be an interesting way for me to learn by reading this chapter and then finding videos that is very close to what is talked about. So that's what I did. So I hope you enjoy.
Why would the U.S. Department of Health be granted such a patent if, again, there's no medical benefits? Very good question. Today, we're going to talk about the medical benefits of cannabis use. So what are the medical benefits? Why can't medical experts and researchers study it more? And did you know it was once legal? So many questions concerning this hot button issue, and I'm going to go over all of that, plus clear up some other myths about cannabis. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Wagner. I'm a board-certified emergency medicine physician, and on my show, I answer your urgent medical questions and clear up myths about certain ailments. For years, people have allegedly been using cannabis to help treat their medical ailments, and yet for years, the government has classified it as a Schedule I drug, meaning it has no medical benefits. Despite that, researchers have shown documented benefits by using cannabis for various ailments, as well as there are a load of anecdotal evidence with patients having positive results and finding relief with using medical cannabis. So why is there still so much red tape? In recent years, researchers have discovered that similar to the pulmonary and/or nervous system, our bodies have an endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system is a biological system composed of endocannabinoids, which are endogenous lipid-based retrograde neurotransmitters that bind to cannabinoid receptors and cannabinoid receptor proteins in the nervous system, including the brain as well as the peripheral nervous system. In other words, although it remains under preliminary research, the endocannabinoid system is a body system that may be involved in regulating physiological and cognitive processes, including fertility, pregnancy, during pre- and postnatal development, appetite, pain sensation, mood, memory, and more. You hear them most often referred to as the CB1 and the CB2 receptor. Interestingly, the cannabis plant contains more than 100 different cannabinoids or chemical compounds that on a molecular level bind to our CB1 and CB2 receptors. For instance, if you look at anandamide, a molecule that our own body creates naturally, and compare it to THC, they are nearly identical on a molecular level. So why would a plant that our government labels as having no alleged medical benefits contain cannabinoids that mimics what our own body creates, and why would these cannabinoids bind so perfectly to our healthy regulatory system in our brain and body? Although we don't have all the answers, some researchers out there believe it's for our own medical benefit. The history of medical benefits. Let's take a trip down memory lane long before it was labeled as a Schedule I substance, meaning again, has no medical benefits. If we travel all the way back in time to 1937, cannabis was legal and used quite regularly as medicine by physicians to treat many different ailments. In fact, before 1937, you could head to your local Rite Aid or CVS equivalent and purchase it as you would many other over-the-counter prescriptions today. But then it all changed. Historians trace back the growing thoughts against cannabis to 1937. At that time, there was a rival battle between the competing lumber industries of the time and the hemp or industrial fiber version of cannabis that can be used similarly to lumber for papers, ropes, etc., but to take far less time to grow. Many of the lumber-owned companies also owned some of the major newspapers of the time. As their disdain for the competing hemp industries grew, many of these lumber-owned newspaper companies started printing salacious articles against all forms of the cannabis plant. Then, in 1937, the hammer came down and the Marijuana Act of 1937 occurred, which put a high tax on the sale of cannabis. Some parties have argued that the aim of the tax was to reduce the size of the hemp industry. As time had gone on, more and more regulations have been placed on cannabis, and cannabis was officially outlawed for any use, medically included, with the passage of the 1970 Controlled Substance Act. But now, some 50 years later, more and more are we seeing laws becoming more lax on the use of cannabis, and is now once again legal for medicinal use in 33 states and legal for recreational use in 11 states. So why is it taking so long to get more research for medical use? Well, the long and short of it is, you can't really research something if the government says it has no medical benefits. They just don't give out funding for it. However, as more and more patients come up with their own anecdotal stories and research, and as drug companies in other countries start to work with it, you are slowly seeing things change. For instance, the US patent number 6630507, granted in 2013 to the US Department of Health and Human Services, covers the potential use of non-psychoactive cannabinoids to protect the brain from damage or degeneration caused by certain diseases. Things that make you go, why would the US Department of Health be granted such a patent if, again, there's no medical benefits? Very good question. Now, in the fiscal year of 2017, the NIH supported 330 research projects totaling almost $140 million on cannabinoid research. Is marijuana safe from a medical standpoint? The correct answer is still a bit up in the air, meaning since it isn't regulated, the dosage, the concentration, and plant varieties all play a key role in its safety. Scientists say more long-term research is needed, just like any other drug that's on the market. Scientists are concerned about the effects it might have on young people using it as their brains are still developing. However, that being said, if you look at the different studies out of Israel with Dr. Meshulam's research with it and its treatment of Alzheimer's patients and different epilepsy benefits, or with Dr. Manuel Guzman out of Spain with research regarding cannabis and glioblastoma brain tumors, it certainly seems that cannabis advancements in medicine might be right around the corner. FDA, or the Federal Drug Administration, has not approved the cannabis plant for any medical use, but it has approved several drugs that contain individual cannabinoids. Marinol and Syndrose, which contain dronabinol or synthetic THC, and Sesamet, which contains nabilone, a synthetic substance similar to THC, are approved by the FDA to treat nausea and vomiting caused by chemotherapy. Dronabinol is also used to treat the loss of appetite, weight loss in people with HIV/AIDS. Medical marijuana received a lot of attention a few years ago when parents said that a specific form of the drug helped control seizures in their children. The FDA recently approved Epidiolex, which is made from CBD, as a therapy for people with very severe or hard to treat seizures. In studies, some people have had dramatic drop in seizures after taking this medication. Some research suggests cannabinoids can also reduce anxiety, reduce inflammation and relieve pain, control nausea and vomiting caused by cancer chemotherapy, kill cancer cells and slow tumor growth, relax tight muscles in people with multiple sclerosis, stimulate appetite and improve weight gain in people with cancer and AIDS/HIV, Alzheimer's disease, Crohn's disease, epilepsy, glaucoma, mental health conditions like schizophrenia and PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. Talk to your doctor openly about it. Together, you can make a shared, well-informed decision. Remember, always be safe with an unknown substance. Do not use cannabis or cannabinoids to postpone seeing a healthcare provider about a medical problem you have. Be aware that driving or operating heavy machinery is dangerous when using cannabis, just like many other medications. All right, that's been your 5 minutes on the positive sides of cannabis with me, Dr. Wagner. I hope I've cleared up some of the myths regarding cannabis out there and hope that you get a better understanding of the potential benefits this plant can bring to the medical field once legalized. Have you used medical cannabis to treat an ailment? Make sure you leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn your bell notifications on. That way you can learn when I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching and stay healthy, my friends. Why would the US Department
Full Throttle, Red Bull.
Rockstar.
Monster, 5-Hour Energy's pretty popular.
Rip It is huge because it's so cheap.
Energy drinks, supersized, grab-and-go ready, and turbocharged with caffeine. They are the fastest-growing beverage in the soft drink industry.
I like the taste of them, but also just feel more alert and focused when I take them.
Marketed as high-energy, on-the-go, performance-enhancing beverages, young adults and college athletes, mostly male, have become the biggest consumers.
A lot of guys drink 5-Hour Energy before games just for that extra pump up.
That extra boost comes from caffeine, the most popular drug in the world.
I love it. I'm not productive in the morning if I don't have coffee.
8 in 10 Americans consume caffeine every day.
Coffee is the only type of caffeine I really need.
But an increasing number of young people are getting their caffeine from chemical-loaded energy drinks.
I don't really like coffee, so if I ever feeling really tired, then that's probably what I'll drink.
It's good to have something to just keep your mind ready and on the go.
But what's actually in these drinks?
One can of one energy drink, for example, has about 500 milligrams of caffeine in it, which is about 5 cups of coffee. Often there are other ingredients besides caffeine which sometimes may build up the effect of the caffeine.
Classified as a dietary supplement, energy drinks are unregulated.
Companies can put in whatever they want. They don't have to say how much caffeine is in it. It's never checked by the FDA. And so when you drink that can, you're really not sure what you're drinking.
The consumption of energy drinks is a rising public health concern. In just 4 years, emergency room visits involving energy drinks have doubled.
Usually people come in with just a rapid heart rate, agitation, tremulousness, nervousness, anxiety, not feeling well. But there are now more and more cases reported where people get really sick and have to be resuscitated in the emergency room or even die in the emergency room.
Concerns about energy drinks spiked following reports of multiple deaths possibly linked to the products. So just what are the health risks when you consume too many of these drinks?
High blood pressure, rapid heartbeats, premature beats, experience mood changes, and seizures. If people are drinking only energy drinks, they can become very dehydrated because caffeine is a diuretic, and people can end up with acute kidney injury and renal failure.
Have you ever mixed it with alcohol by any chance?
No, I've heard that's not too great for you at all.
But 54% of college students who consume energy drinks do mix them with alcohol when partying.
I think it's common sense that consuming stimulants and depressants at the same time is not going to be healthy for you.
If you're chugging the beverage in order to get high on alcohol, you're almost certainly going to have a toxic dose of caffeine along for the ride.
And that risky cocktail could send you to the ER.
I thought this young 24-year-old man was going to die right in front of my eyes. After 2 or 3 hours, we figured out that he was actually diabetic, and he had been mixing Rockstar energy drinks with whiskey.
A toxic combination. Located next to chocolate milk and sports drinks, there's often an assumption that these beverages and caffeine levels are harmless.
There's not that much caffeine in coffee. There's only like 300 or 400 milligrams in energy drinks, I'm pretty sure. So it's pretty safe.
That's certainly the argument of the Beverage Industry Association, which touts the safety of energy drinks and responsible advertising.
The companies have promised not to advertise them to kids. Kids are one of the largest markets. And there's no prohibition for a kid to go into a grocery store or a convenience store and buy these and chug them.
I don't understand why they're even marketed. I think it's irresponsible.
Physicians worry that children and teens targeted by the makers of these drinks are not aware of the serious health issues involved in consuming them.
There's really no role for energy drinks, particularly in children.
Doctors say the doubling of ER visits is just the symptom. The real problem is the failure to regulate energy drinks. Health experts are now urging the FDA to take prompt action to restrict the amount of caffeine in energy drinks and to require manufacturers to list caffeine levels on the product's labels. Some Dartmouth-Hitchcock physicians go one step further.
You only get one heart. You shouldn't fool around with it. My recommendation would be not use them at all.
Full Throttle.
Alcohol and energy drinks are a match made in hell. Hey guys, Tara here for D News, and if you're someone over the age of 21 who likes to frequent dance clubs, then chances are you've probably combined alcohol and energy drinks at least once in your life. Makes sense, right? You're tired and you have no energy, but you still want to party. Well, stop doing that, because according to science, it's really bad for your health. The rate of emergency room visits involving energy drinks has doubled between 2007 and 2011, prompting the FDA to ban most pre-mixed alcoholic energy drinks. Unfortunately, that ban doesn't extend to bars, who still happily serve customers all kinds of alcoholic energy drink concoctions. A 2012 study found that people who combine energy drinks with alcohol were 600% more likely to suffer from heart palpitations and 400% more likely to suffer from tremors, irritability, and insomnia than people who just drink alcohol alone. But heart problems aren't the only side effect of doing this. There are also psychological effects that explain why this combination is so bad for your body. Numerous studies have shown that mixing energy drinks and alcohol not only increases your likelihood of being in an accident, it also impairs your judgment in two key ways. It makes you think you're less drunk than you actually are, and it makes you crave alcohol more strongly. A series of experiments published in 2012 found that people who consumed alcoholic energy drinks rated their own intoxication as being lower than people who had identical blood alcohol levels but had consumed no energy drinks. Other studies have also shown that people who have alcoholic energy drinks tend to consume more alcohol and drink for longer, partly because the caffeine buzz, which can last for up to 6 hours, eliminates those feelings of tiredness that usually cause someone to stop drinking. Even sodas, which contain significantly less caffeine than energy drinks, have been shown to heighten intoxication. And in fact, diet sodas will get you drunk even faster because there's no sucrose there to slow down the gastric emptying of alcohol. So the next time you're at the club and decide you need to perk up a little bit, just don't. The added energy really isn't worth it. What are your thoughts on this? Do you frequently mix energy drinks with alcohol? And how does doing so make you feel? Feel free to share your experiences with us in the comments down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.
Methamphetamine, also called meth or crystal meth, among other names, is a psychostimulant drug, mainly known for its recreational use. Methamphetamine is chemically similar to amphetamine, a drug used to treat attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obesity, and narcolepsy, but being more potent and highly addictive, methamphetamine is rarely prescribed for medical treatments. Most commonly, the drug is produced illegally from pseudoephedrine, an ingredient in cold medicines. It can exist as white powder, pills, or bluish-white crystals, and can be consumed by swallowing, smoking, snorting, or injecting. Methamphetamine acts to increase the amount of a neurotransmitter called dopamine in the brain. Dopamine is at the basis of the brain reward pathway, which is designed to reward the body for important behaviors that are essential for survival, such as feeding when hungry. Engaging in enjoyable activities causes dopamine release from dopamine-producing neurons into a space between neurons, where it binds to and stimulates its receptors on the neighboring neuron. This stimulation is believed to produce pleasurable feelings or rewarding effect. Normally, dopamine molecules are promptly cleared from the synaptic space to ensure that the postsynaptic neurons are not overstimulated. This is possible thanks to the action of dopamine transporter, which channels dopamine back to the transmitting neuron. Methamphetamine binds to dopamine transporter and blocks dopamine reuptake. In addition, it can enter the transmitting neuron and trigger more dopamine release. The result is that dopamine builds up in the synapse to a much greater amount than normal. This produces a continuous overstimulation of receiving neurons and is responsible for the prolonged and intense euphoria experienced by drug users. At a low dose, methamphetamine stimulates the brain and can elevate mood and alertness. And by accelerating heart rate and breathing rate, it increases energy in fatigued individuals. It also reduces appetite and promotes weight loss. These seemingly positive effects keep users coming back for more, eventually leading to addiction and potential overdose. Long-term drug users may experience extreme weight loss, severe dental damage, and constant hyperactivity, which results in anxiety, sleeping disorders, and violent behaviors. Overdose takes the drug's effects to the extreme and can cause psychosis, heart attacks, seizures, strokes, organ failures, and even death. Currently, there is no approved pharmacological treatment for methamphetamine addiction. The most effective treatments are cognitive behavioral therapies.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Simmons, board certified in family medicine, and I'm here to give you the facts about MDMA. MDMA is the official scientific name for a drug commonly referred to as ecstasy or Molly. It was originally synthesized in 1912 by the drug company Merck. In the 1970s, MDMA was used to assist psychotherapy. After MDMA grew popular for recreational purposes, it was banned in the US in 1985, but remains a popular drug in the party and nightlife scene. People who use MDMA describe themselves as feeling euphoric, open, accepting, unafraid, and connected to the people around them, which is why it's proven useful in therapy. Overdose from MDMA is possible, but rare. More often, medical problems or death come from mixing MDMA with alcohol or other drugs. Complications can also arise from pre-existing health conditions, overexertion, dehydration, or when the drug has been adulterated or cut with other substances. A frequent misconception is that the powder form, often called Molly, is pure MDMA. Drug checking, also known as pill testing or adulterant screening, is one way to get more information about whether a drug contains MDMA or has been cut with other substances. A dangerously high increase in body temperature or heat stroke is the most common medical problem associated with MDMA. Hyperthermia can result from physical exertion such as dancing in an overheated environment without taking breaks or replenishing fluids. In extreme cases, hyperthermia can cause liver, kidney, or heart failure, or even death. Another concern for people who take MDMA is hyponatremia, drinking too much water, which causes the sodium in the blood to dilute to critically low levels. There's no absolutely safe way to take a drug, but experts recommend that anyone using MDMA start low and go slow, and seek medical attention for any complications. To learn more about MDMA and other drugs, go to drugpolicy.org.
Hey guys, my name is Tyler Jacobson, and I'm the Senior Admissions Coordinator here at Beginnings Treatment.
I'm Justin Gerard, I'm the Intake Specialist here at Beginnings.
And today we're going to talk about Oxycontin and Percocets.
Today we're going to talk about the signs of dependence, withdrawal symptoms, things to look for, types of treatment, all that good stuff.
So what are they? Oxycontin and Percocet are both two brand names of a generic drug called oxycodone. And what that is, it's a strong and potent opiate that has been used for a long, long time to treat pain, but it also has a lot of addictive qualities. You know, people get extremely dependent on it, and it can be really hard and almost seem impossible to kick the habit.
Signs of dependence on the opiates is pretty straight across the board. Slurred speech, people nodding out, apathy, laziness, obsessiveness on, to get more, etc. Many times it's the only thing on an addict's mind, and their whole day is circled around that.
Right, and you can become extremely dependent on it very quickly without even knowing it. You could get it prescribed by a doctor for a surgery, an injury, and then all of a sudden, you take it for a month, 2 months, and you might not even be someone that would have normally been an addict or an opiate addict in the first place, but it has extremely powerful qualities that make you physically dependent on it and mentally dependent. And that's because you'll take it, and what it does is it releases all the endorphins in your brain, lots and lots of endorphins, so you feel really good. But what that also does is that it makes it so your body stops producing its own endorphins. So then from there, your new baseline is being dependent on the drug, and so when you don't have it, your body isn't releasing natural endorphins anymore, so you feel really bad, you feel sick, what people call dope sick, and that's when you start going through the withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah, and those withdrawal symptoms are gnarly. My dependence started in much the same way. Hurt my back, got stuck on pain pills. When they tried to take me off of them, I went into those withdrawal symptoms that he was just referring to. Things like anxiety, sweats, diarrhea, severe body aches, pins and needles in your extremities. The anxiety and obsessiveness alone comes with that, needing to get the next pill so that those symptoms go away. It's a circle that just is very hard to break without some help. These things can sneak up on you, like Tyler said, and before you know it, you have that physical dependence, and as soon as it's removed, you start feeling sick. And so the idea of being able to keep up with all the things all the responsibilities in life that you have while going through opiate withdrawal is almost unbearable. Withdrawal symptoms, anxiety, sweats, nausea, diarrhea, depression, mood swings, they get very severe.
Right, and getting off of a drug like this, like oxycodone or any opiate drugs, can seem almost impossible, and that's why it's good that there is help available, there is treatment. It's almost necessary to do an actual medical detox with this, so you can do it comfortably. You can get the right medications, you can have a case manager and a therapist to help walk you through all these things that you might not normally know what's going on in your head and in your body. And we offer detox here for not only oxycodone, but all opiates and all other addictive substances too.
Hi, I'm Dr. David Simmons, board certified in family medicine, and I'm here to give you the facts about heroin. Heroin was first synthesized from morphine in 1874 and marketed by Bayer, the German pharmaceutical company, until it was made illegal in the US in 1924. Other forms of opiates similar to heroin, like oxycodone and fentanyl, continue to be available as prescribed pain medicines. Like other opiates, heroin is a sedative drug that slows body functioning and lessens emotional aches and pains. People who use heroin may develop a physical dependence. Regular use increases this potential risk. Most fatal overdoses are caused by combining heroin with alcohol or another drug. Symptoms of a heroin overdose include slow and shallow breathing, convulsions, and coma. Sharing needles can spread deadly diseases such as HIV and hepatitis B and C. The chance of surviving an overdose, like that of surviving a heart attack, depends greatly on how fast one receives medical assistance. The life-saving medicine naloxone is relatively easy for most people to administer and reverses the effects of a heroin overdose. One critical safety measure is to discourage someone from using alone. This is one of the reasons a growing number of health experts are advocating for safe consumption facilities, where people use heroin under medical supervision. These facilities often provide access to counseling and supportive health services. There's also been success using medications such as methadone and buprenorphine to help people stop or reduce heroin use. To learn more about heroin and other drugs, go to drugpolicy.org.
Dust off whippets, nitrous oxide, air fresheners,
air duster,
NOS, markers, butane, inhalants.
It kills brain cells, it lowers IQ, it makes you into a zombie.
Inhalants are toxic things that people use to get a quick high. There are more than 1,000 household products that people use as inhalants to get high.
Most commonly used in the U.S. are shoe polish, glue,
Poppers,
gasoline,
lacquer thinner,
lighter fluid, nitrous oxide,
other paint solvents, and dust off.
Poppers and whippets, which you can pick up at a club or a concert, contain really poisonous chemicals that can permanently damage your body and brain.
In the long run, it can hurt your body. It can cause damage to your intestinal tract and stuff like that. That cuts off the oxygen to your brain. It kills your brain cells.
It even says on the labels, like, do not inhale, you could die from inhaling this. Like, on the labels of dust off, it causes heart attacks, causes this and that. And it's not like heroin or like meth or any of those drugs where it will, eventually you'll gain a tolerance for it and you'll just be addicted and you'll just be trapped by it and you just keep doing it until you die. If you did it enough, you just die.
Like, a lot of kids die with it still in their mouth because you just don't know when it's too much.
I did the whippets, I did like air freshener cans.
Like dust off for like computer equipment and stuff. Spray paint in a paper bag. Inhale it through a shirt because you don't want the Freon to get in your throat.
With the whipped cream, you just push the top part and inhale the air when the whipped cream comes out.
People put it in a balloon and you inhale it, exhale and re-inhale it through the balloon.
Or you could just like huff it straight out of a can or whatever it came in. I have to say I was probably 13.
I think I was 14 or 15.
I was 15.
My friends and I were sitting behind a dollar store. I just showed up because I knew that was like a hangout spot. We would go there and drink or smoke marijuana. And they were all sitting around a circle just inhaling butane, like lighter fluid. I was like, what are you guys doing? We're inhaling, it's kind of new, I don't know, cool.
Someone just
discovered it, I guess, through somebody else and then brought it up. Honestly, we had nothing else to do.
I went to a rave with one of my friends. There was a guy sitting in his car with a tank. Just pretty much asked me if I wanted some, so I said sure. He filled up a balloon and gave it to me.
He called it devil in a can. He said it'll blow your mind. And it did. It was bad.
After I did it the first time, it only took maybe 2 to 3 days before I started doing it again.
When I first started doing it, it was like really exciting, so spent another hour or two just going through all the different cans in the house.
What's so addicting about it is you just feel the rush instantly. It just hits you immediately.
After I inhaled the whole balloon, I couldn't hear a thing. All I heard was wah, 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 wah in my head. People were talking to me, but I couldn't make out a single word.
I'd want to do it right away again because the high would go away so fast.
For 20 seconds, you have a false happiness.
So you want to get right back into it.
The whole goal is to be high, so you just do it, like want it right away again.
I wanted to do it again.
So you have to keep doing it over and over and over again.
I was doing it every single day. I was addicted to it, for sure.
I passed out.
And me and my friends passed out a lot.
Been passed out for quite a while, like a few minutes, 5 minutes.
I passed out in my house a few times.
Pass out, and I was just in bed. I'd pass out, and I'd wake up every 10 minutes or every hour. And as soon as I'd wake up, I'd search for it, and I'd do it again.
And I would do it to the point where I would pass out every single time on purpose.
When you pass out, you wake up and you don't remember what happened.
You have like no sense of thought, so you tripping over things and always ending up hurt somehow, falling, shortness of breath, like it would make my chest hurt after a while.
When you're coming down off of it, you get a foamy mouth and everything tastes weird.
I'd get sick when I came down off a high. My stomach would hurt and I'd have a headache, feel really lightheaded.
I couldn't even see. I would just focus on the ringing because your head will start ringing. It's not like you could read a sign or go get a glass of water. It's just like you had to sit down and just wait for it to stop.
I would almost say like paranoia, confusion. And depending how much you do, you get really nauseous.
I just felt completely dead. Like I knew I didn't have any brain cells left.
Probably the worst migraine you could ever have in your entire life, where it feels like your brain is bleeding because it's hurting so bad.
It's like, that's it. Until it's over, you're just a vegetable.
So it's kind of like a never-ending cycle to where you'd be, never ends.
It was me and 3 other friends, and we were huffing in a car, and the driver was huffing too. She had just taken a hit, and she drove into a tree, and none of us were wearing our seatbelts. I had a friend end up in the hospital from it because she just didn't wake up.
I was bored. I did it once, I did it again. I did it a 3rd time, and then I passed out. The next thing I remember, I'm running down the street, barefoot and just a pair of shorts on. No idea where I was going. And somehow made it to my friend's house, and he drove me back to my car. There were cops there, and I had hit a tree, huge tree, messed up my car. I was stupid enough to ruin a $10,000 piece of machinery just for 2 minutes of being high.
I inhaled a bunch of dust off and then got in the shower and I knocked myself out, fell over, hit my head on the bathtub spout. And then I woke up and stupidly enough did it again, inhaled it, got back in the shower and fell over again. I was bloody and it's just stupid.
I inhaled it and I fell backwards, hit my head on the concrete and was out. Then woke up and the back of my head was bleeding. There was blood all over my back and my shirt and all over the place. And my friends were all like, "Whoa, that was awesome." They thought it was cool. I thought it was like, wow, I'm cool now because I'm bleeding. And my friends are giving me approval because I'm bleeding and in pain. Good friends.
I've heard from many other friends who, one was inhaling Freon and he took 2 hits and then that was it. And now he's dead. I do have trouble breathing. I can't run upstairs. If I do, I am on the verge of passing out because I'm out of breath.
I still have memory problems with it because it severely messed up my memory. I can't remember faces like I used to. I don't have clear images anymore.
I'm learning at a slower rate than I was 2 years ago.
It does affect the way your ability to learn. It's really hard to see it at the time. So you don't realize the toll it's taking on your body.
I had no idea it would cause this much pain and suffering and trauma on myself.
It really messes you up. They're irreversible. to the body.
Just based on the fact that so many people die from it, I would say don't do it. Because it's not worth losing your life over, a 30-second high from a $5 can of compressed air is just not worth all the trouble that it causes.
Well, it would have been nice to know a lot more. I wouldn't have done what I did.
Basically not worth it. I've seen people die. I've almost died myself a couple times. And just for that quick euphoria, there's so many better things in life.
It's all fun and games, but it's really dangerous. Kids dying from it with the can still in their hand. There's no point to it.
It's really dangerous. It's probably more severe than some of the most dangerous street drugs out there.
I mean, all you're doing, in the time you're doing drugs, you're destroying your life, you're destroying your body, you're destroying your soul. But during the time, you think everything's fine. But that's completely false and fake and not true.
What is addiction? It's also called a substance use disorder. Over 20 million people nationwide suffer from addiction. 1 in 7 people will experience addiction at some point in their life. Scientists first began to understand addiction as a brain disorder back in the 1950s. Doctors Olds and Milner, in laboratory studies of rats, found the parts of the brain affected by addiction. But then in 1994, Doctors Volkoff and Shelbert, top neuroscientists, ran PET scans of the brain that showed the effects of substance use disorders. And like other diseases, these scans showed it affected tissue function. So there are 2 main parts of the brain affected by drug use: the limbic system and the cortex. The limbic system, located deep within the brain, is responsible for our basic survival instincts. So when you do essential things to stay alive, like eat, drink, find shelter, have sex, or care for your young, your brain reinforces behaviors that cause the release of dopamine from this region. That reward for surviving is also transmitted to the amygdala and hippocampus, which records a memory of that feeling, so we seek it again. This is our survival hardwiring. Addiction also affects this area, up here. That's the prefrontal cortex, which is what separates us from other animals. And this is where decision-making and impulse control live. When drugs or alcohol are used, they activate the very same dopamine process in the survival center. And when use is repeated, that substance can hijack that part of the brain. This hijacker changes the brain and weakens this system to make it believe that the primary need for survival is the drug. In hijacking the brain, it can usurp those primary motivations: food, water, shelter, sex, and protecting our young. And the hijacker needs more and more of the substance to activate the same level of reward or feeling of pleasure, causing the brain tissue to become increasingly damaged with continued drug use. So why don't all people who use alcohol or drugs become addicted? There are factors that contribute to the development of a substance use disorder. They include individual factors like your genes, your age of exposure, and then environmental factors like drug availability. But there is good news. Addiction is preventable. Key factors that aid in preventing addiction can be categorized into 2 parts: risk factors and protective factors. Protective factors range from parental involvement, programs that improve self-control, limiting availability, and increasing attachment to your community. Another key element in preventing substance use disorders is to delay when use begins. Put simply, prevention is about delaying the onset of first use. In the adolescent brain, where brain tissue is more vulnerable, the hijacker is more prone to weaken the brain and plant itself as a disease. Those with substance use disorders commonly initiate first use much earlier, between 12 and 18 years old, which increases the likelihood of the hijacker taking hold. But if the hijacker does take hold, addiction is treatable. Advancements have been made in assessments, treatment programs, recovery supports, and medications to treat addiction. Brain scans show that once in recovery, the tissue in the limbic system and cortex can get better. With your help, we can expand these innovations to help millions of individuals and families and ensure that addiction is treated as the medical issue that it is. Together, we can solve this. Join us.
In this video, we will learn what is drug schedule, how many types, and some examples at the end. If you find this video useful, please like and subscribe. Since 1970, the United States has maintained the Controlled Substance Act in an effort to protect the general public from potentially dangerous and addictive drugs. Drugs, substances, and certain chemicals used to make drugs are classified into 5 distinct categories or schedules depending upon the drug's acceptable medical use and the drug's abuse or dependency potential. The abuse rate is a determinant factor in the scheduling of the drug. For example, Schedule 1 drugs have a high potential for abuse and the potential to create severe psychological and/or physical dependence. As the drug schedule changes, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, etc., so does the abuse potential. Schedule 5 drugs represent the least potential for abuse. Schedule 1. Schedule 1 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. Some examples of Schedule 1 drugs are heroin, lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD, marijuana, cannabis. 3. 4. Methylenidoxy methamphetamine, ecstasy, methaqualone, and peyote. Schedule 2. Schedule 2 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with a high potential for abuse, with use potentially leading to severe psychological or physical dependence. These drugs are also considered dangerous. Some examples of Schedule 2 drugs are combination products with less than 15 milligrams of hydrocodone per dosage unit, Vicodin, cocaine, methamphetamine, methadone, hydromorphine, mipridine, Demerol, oxycodone, Oxycontin, fentanyl, dexedrine, Adderall, and Ritalin. Schedule 3. Schedule 3 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with a moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. Schedule 3 drugs abuse potential is less than Schedule 1 and Schedule 2 drugs, but more than Schedule 4. Some examples of Schedule 3 drugs are products containing less than 90 milligrams of codeine per dosage unit, Tylenol with codeine, ketamine, anabolic steroids, testosterone. Schedule 4. Schedule 4 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with a low potential for abuse and low risk of dependence. Some examples of Schedule 4 drugs are Xanax, Soma, Darvon, Darvocet, Valium, Ativan, Talwin, Ambien, Tramadol. Schedule 5. Schedule 5 drugs, substances, or chemicals are defined as drugs with lower potential for abuse than Schedule 4 and consist of preparations containing limited quantities of certain narcotics. Schedule 5 drugs are generally used for antidiarrheal, antitussive, and analgesic purposes. Some examples of Schedule 5 drugs are cough preparations with less than 200 milligrams of codeine or per 100 milliliters, Robitussin AC, Lomotil, Modafinil, Lyrica, Parapectilin. Let's revise them all one more time. Ambien, Schedule 4, Percocet, Schedule 2, Vicodin, Schedule 2, Xanax, Schedule 4, Ativan, Schedule 4, Klonopin, Schedule 4, Valium, Schedule 4, Oxycontin, Schedule 2, Soma, Schedule 4, Tylenol 3, Schedule 3, Concerta, Schedule 2, Lyrica, Schedule 5, Restoril, Schedule 4, Adderall, Schedule 2, Duragesic, Schedule 2, Methadose, Schedule 2, Tucinex, Schedule 3, Adipex, Schedule 4, Lunesta, Schedule 4, Suboxone, Schedule 3, Vyvanse, Schedule 2. Schedule 3, 4, and 5 controlled substances can be prescribed in writing or via verbal communication with a pharmacist. Prescribers can authorize a refill in writing or over the phone. However, the drug can be refilled only up to 5 times in the 6 months after the date that the prescription was issued. The DEA can change or remove a scheduled substance from a schedule if it receives evidence that a substance is in an inappropriate schedule. Okay, that's all. I've tried my best to get accurate as much as possible. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Thank you.
Drug abuse can affect anyone, but athletes are especially prone to developing an addiction. The intense pressure to execute peak performance, the unstable life constantly on the road, and a possible underlying mental health disorder can all lead today's athletes to self-medicate with drugs or alcohol. The lavish lifestyle of professional sports also helps foster an environment of excessive partying ripe with the potential for substance abuse to occur. Athletes also experience all sorts of physical injuries and are often prescribed opiates like Oxycontin, Vicodin, and Percocet for pain relief. Unfortunately, many athletes become addicted to these prescription painkillers. Athletes are also uniquely affected by the problems of performance-enhancing drugs. The pressure to be the best can lead athletes to develop a win-at-all-costs attitude, even if the cost is a number of dangerous side effects that cause a great deal of damage to one's body. Anabolic steroids can cause high blood pressure, high cholesterol, baldness, loss of sex drive, and decreased liver function. Human growth hormones can cause severe imbalance in the body, which increase the risk of heart disease, diabetes, joint pain, and carpal tunnel syndrome. Stimulants can increase the risk of heart attack and even death. At More Than Rehab outside of Houston, Texas, we offer professional rehabilitation for athletes looking to overcome their addictions. We possess one of the best evidence-based addiction treatment programs in the nation. Call us today to find out what we can do to help you or a loved one with your substance abuse problem. The sooner you call, the sooner we can help.